Welcome to another episode of the No Notes Podcast. My name is Morgan.
I'm JD.
And today we have some notes. What do we have notes on today, JD?
Dune Part Two!
Let's go!
I'm literally so excited. I was so excited for this movie to come out. We talked about our anticipated episode.
Oh, yeah.
It's finally here.
Mm-hmm.
We've been waiting for this since Dune Part 1, if
forever.
you're me. Like, forever. Yeah. It got delayed. It was supposed to come out in November of last year.
Mm-hmm. Which made the wait feel so much longer. It should have came out, and then it didn't.
But it's finally here. And it's awesome.
Yeah. Let's just get right into your experience watching Dune 2. How did it go? How was the day? Give us every grueling moment.
Oh my gosh. It was great. It was I saw it Friday night, so more or less the opening night.
Yeah.
With my dad and a good friend of mine and Caleb. Shout out my dad and Caleb. We went to the AMC in Lawrenceville with the reclining chairs.
Nice.
Shout out again. And just had a great time. The theater was packed. People were getting excited.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, every now and then, like, a movie comes along that, like, really packs a punch when you watch it in a movie theater. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like Oppenheimer was kind of like that. For some people, Five Nights at Freddy's, I know, was like that. And for me, Dune Part 2, every moment of, like, spectacle and action, I was on the edge of my seat. We're going to dive into a lot of the scenes later, I know. Mm-hmm. But, like, I was just completely bought into everything the movie did. Yeah. And I had an absolutely amazing time. And then discussing it later. My dad's a huge fan of the books. Mm-hmm. I've only seen the movies, so I'm a big fan of Denis Villeneuve, the director. Oh, yeah. Ended up being just a fun night and a great movie.
Yes. I have been super immersed into the Dune world the past 2 weeks. I finally finished the first half of the book. Have not finished the book still. Nice. But I got to the point where the first movie ends, and then I gave up on it. But I'll probably finish it. I was like, I'll watch them. I'm not going to finish it before the movie comes out. I'm just going to give up and watch the movie. Yeah, and then I rewatched Dune 1, and that was fun. I did lower my stars a little bit on the third watch. I watched it twice in theaters and then once not in theaters. And so maybe it's my fault for not experiencing it the way it was meant to be experienced. But I did lower it a little bit on my third watch. But still super excited for the second one because it sets up perfectly. I went and saw it in IMAX with lasers, Dolby Vision at an AMC.
Ooh, all the fancy stuff.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm going all out. I went like midday Saturday, I think. And so it was still a packed theater. It was basically sold out. Like the first 2 rows weren't filled, but I just went by myself and I sat in the back row, and it was awesome because I sat in between what looked like 2 big groups of people, and none of them showed up. So I had the whole back row to myself, even though it was sold out. So I was lounging. It was amazing. They had also, we're just gonna talk more about AMC. They had a table for testing their new snacks. Did you see that?
No, they didn't.
They had like little samplers of their new like chocolate pretzels, and I was like, AMC, I love a chocolate pretzel. So I tried a chocolate pretzel and then also bought a chocolate pretzel, and it did not disappoint. It was really good. I ate an entire bag of chocolate pretzels while watching this 3-hour film.
I know. I got one of those large cups and filled it up with a lemonade.
Oh, yeah.
Got a refill like after the previews ended. Like I didn't drink the whole thing. I went back and topped myself off before the previews. Like, I'm gonna enjoy my experience. Oh yeah. Did you get the Dune popcorn bucket?
I personally would not be caught dead buying a Dune popcorn bucket, but I'm glad that other people on this planet have bought a Dune popcorn bucket.
I also did not buy a Dune popcorn bucket. I think I would rather. Yeah. I just would rather not. Yeah. I don't want my money going to something like that. But
how much was it? Do you know how much people paid for those?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna look it up while we continue.
I watched the SNL skit about it though. That made me laugh. Did you see this?
No.
It's Iowa Debris was hosting The Girl from the Bear and Marcello.
Yeah.
And they sing a song about how they are in love with the Dune popcorn bucket.
I love that. It was $24.99 for
So as much as an AMC monthly subscription, basically. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. But outside of all of that, it was very fun. It was a blast. I am so glad I wish I would have had people to go see it with me, but everyone was busy and they were sold out by the time I thought about it. So I just went by myself, but I think it was just as fun. Yeah, it was just epic. Like the whole experience. I like, it's one of those I just sat and like let all the credits roll and just took it in before I got up and went on with my day.
I want to say, like, from a technical level, I think everything on this movie was executed almost perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they shot on location for almost everything, and the scope of the story is captured amazingly. I think Denis Villeneuve's always been good at that. If you, like, watch Arrival, or Blade Runner 2049, like, you can see that he really understands how to make big things look big.
Oh, yeah.
But despite that skill, he also is really good at getting really subtle character-driven performances out of his actors.
Yeah.
And every actor in this movie, I'm sure we'll talk more about this later, I thought really killed it.
Yeah.
The music was amazing. The sound design was amazing. All of the CGI and visual effects looked amazing. Like, this is... Everyone who was working on this movie was executing at the highest level. Like, you had Hans Zimmer and Greg Fraser, like the most skilled, one of the most well-known composers working in movies, one of the most skilled and well-known cinematographers working in movies, working on this together with Denis Villeneuve. I think I'm saying his name right. Like, when you said epic, I think that's absolutely the right word, because everything about this movie, not only does it feel like incredible and consequential, it also looks amazing, sounds amazing, and everything comes together to make it like incredibly solid artistically and structurally.
Yeah.
As like it accompanies the scope really well.
Yeah, and like the pacing of it, I think was amazing because I mean, I think I'm right. They're just kind of like in the same war, kind of with the same battles happening the entire time, like right up until the climax, and it did not feel repetitive in the slightest. It was like every new battle, every new place, every time a character was reintroduced or introduced was like, oh, like now it's gonna happen. Like just getting more and more excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what the screenplay, I guess, did this really well was making sure that it, like, even though this is in the middle of an ongoing conflict, every new scene, every new battle had a different piece of consequence. Like, you brought Paul more into the field. You introduced elements to his relationship with Chani, his relationship with Stilgar. Like, every new scene, even though it was, like, kind of, like, maybe repetitive in, like, the fact that it's another battle, it all carried a different consequence that was attached to the character or the story to progress this character forward or the plot forward in an interesting way. I don't know. Should we like recap a little bit of the story?
Yes.
So we get started, or
From now on, there are spoilers.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie.
Genuinely, I will say before we get into it, go watch this movie in a movie theater.
Oh yeah.
It's worth.
Oh my gosh.
It's worth your time. It's worth your money. It's an incredible experience, and I just don't think it would translate the same watching it like on your laptop. Yeah. It's worth seeing in a movie theater.
For sure.
Okay. Now.
I'll let you give the recap because I don't know anyone's names. I'm like a bald guy, Timmy, like those are their names in my brain, so I'll let you do it.
So there's Timothée Chalamet, his name's Paul Atreides. He and his mom, Jessica, who is this witch. Lady Jessica, who's a part of this like sect of witches.
Also has 4 names in this movie.
Yeah, so true.
Paul gets like literally a new name like twice in this
Constantly
film.
Constantly the same names.
So I just gave up on trying.
Fair. So their family, their like royal family, was basically set up to fail by the Emperor of the Galaxy. They were supposed to produce spice on this planet called Arrakis, also known as Dune, and the Emperor basically set them up to fail. And he like assassinated them because their family was getting too powerful. Yeah. Paul's dad, Jessica's husband, was played by Oscar Isaac in the first movie. He's dead now. So they are on the run with the local people, the native people of Dune, the Fremen. And so that's like Javier Bardem as Stilgar and Zendaya as Chani are Fremen. And so they're the locals, the natives, who understand how to live in the desert because Arrakis is like a bleak, brutal desert. And so they are, throughout the movie, basically teaching Paul and Jessica how to survive and live in the desert, all the while trying to defeat and stop the evil like oppressors, the Harkonnen family, who have returned to Arrakis to start producing this spice stuff again. And so Paul wants to get revenge because like these people were set up by the Emperor to kill his dad, the Harkonnens. Paul wants revenge for his dad. The Fremen want the people off of their planet. They want them to stop colonizing them, basically.
Valid.
And so Paul and the Fremen have shared goals to get rid of the people who are oppressing the Fremen on Dune. And going on in the background, though, is this prophecy that the Bene Gesserit, the people who Lady Jessica belongs to, have been setting up. They have this plan. They don't explain a ton of it in the movie.
Yeah. But
a plan for there to be a Messiah, a savior on Dune, who's going to liberate the Fremen people. And the Bene Gesserit, we're told throughout the movie, have been placing ideas among the Fremen that there's going to be this Messiah who will come. He's called the Lisan al-Gaib, also called the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yes.
My dad's a big Dune fan. He was explaining all this to me. I had to make sure I got it. So basically, Paul is being set up as the Lisan al-Gaib. He's supposed to be the savior of the Fremen as foretold in the prophecy, which is really just a prophecy that the Bene Gesserit invented, but certain elements of the prophecy that they invented are starting to come true, like elements with Lady Jessica. She drinks this weird stuff called the water of life, while also being pregnant. We found out at the end of the first movie that she's pregnant with Oscar Isaac's second baby. Timothée Chalamet's gonna have a sister. And so she ends up taking on this leadership role and drinks this water of life, which gives her like these visions of the future, basically. When she drinks this, now she has like a greater awareness. She can see, centuries of history behind her and has like clarity. The Reverend Mother, yes. And so throughout all of this stuff going on, we also have this side story that ends up colliding with Florence Pugh, who plays the princess, the daughter of the emperor, who is talking to another Bene Gesserit. She's a part of the Bene Gesserit. She's a witch as well. Yeah. And she's talking to other witches because they're basically talking about the schemes that are going on in the galaxy. And then another subplot happens with the Harkonnens, the evil family who are oppressing Dune.
Yes.
Dave Bautista plays one of the Harkonnen kids who's running things on Dune, but he's doing a bad job. And then Austin Butler comes in as Fade Rotha, who is like the wicked, twisted, super crazy, maniacal, psychotic. That's like Florence Pugh is literally like, he's psychotic in the movie. And Léa Seydoux is also in this movie, and she's like, yeah, he's a psychopath. And so he is in this movie now, and he is going to be taking over from Dave Bautista, running things on Dune because Dave Bautista is doing such a bad job. And he is actually psychotic. We have this really, really cool fight scene that introduces him.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the basic setup of the movie. And so there's a lot of really interesting ideas about like, okay, is Paul the Messiah because the Bene Gesserit stories have made him out to be, or is Paul actually the Messiah? It's like a nature versus nurture debate is kind of going on. And then you've also got a love story between Paul and Chani, Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, as she's like teaching him the ways of the desert. They're falling in love. And Paul like doesn't want to be the Messiah. He doesn't think that this is who he should be. He wants to be with Zendaya. And so it's like, is he actually the Messiah? Is this what he's meant to be? Or can he choose not to be this way? His mother, Lady Jessica, is like trying to force him to be this way. Stilgar, Javier Bardem, really believes in the prophecy and wants him to be the Messiah. And so there's all these really interesting ideas that are going on and all these like plot machinations.
There's layers.
There are
layers to this story.
There's probably stuff that I missed. Like Dune fans, if you're hearing us talk about this, there's probably stuff that I missed. So Dune is about like all of this story, and it's a very interesting and compelling story. But throughout all of this story, there are also so many really cool individual little scenes.
Oh my gosh!
That I really want. That I think we should touch.
And it's such a big story. So much is happening, but you do not lose any of the intimacy in your main 4 to 6 characters. Like I feel like the character development happened. Maybe wasn't the most in-depth because there was a lot happening, but it was definitely enough to like make me feel and be interested and feel like they really loved each other. And
I feel like everything
really
they did with Paul and Chani's romance was really good.
Yeah, it like wasn't too much, wasn't too little. They had really good chemistry, which I did not expect. I was like, I don't know if it's gonna work. Just with like how their characters are written, and it worked so well. Yeah. Especially with the time jumps, there was a lot of like, whoa, like we're already past this, but it like they didn't have to tell you. It was just kind of known that like they have passed this point, and
like at one point Zendaya starts wearing a blue headband, and like they never explain what that means, but you kind of understand that this is like maybe like a wedding ring or some kind of symbol that shows like her commitment to Paul. Like you understand. This movie does a lot of showing without telling. Oh, yeah. But it is a good enough story, and there are good enough actors that you kind of understand, and things you don't understand you can just kind of go with without losing a ton of your attention on the story.
And everything that was told, I feel like was so clever. There were so many great, funny one-liners.
Yeah, there really were, especially from Javier Bardem.
Yeah, the clear split between like the southern old religious ways and the new young people who are just trying to like fight for freedom, and like them bickering but still having the same goal, and like those little like one-liners you get out of it are so funny. The point when I think it's after Timothy drinks the worm juice, and then he goes back to the other guys who are very religious and are all like, yes, like he's the Messiah, and he's like, this is all a lie. Like, I'm just want to fight. I just want to be a part of this. Like, I don't want to be the Messiah. And he goes and he's like, he is so humble.
That's he exactly what the Messiah would say.
Yeah. And it's so funny because it's like, it's just very, it's so in depth. Everything is so real. It's like, I've seen people react this way to very real things, and seeing it in this way was just funny and relatable while also being epic and so out of this world. It was crazy.
I totally agree. I feel like they hit so many like small human moments throughout the story. Like Paul's reluctance. Like Paul is like a rich kid who grew up in this imperial house, and now he's been thrust out in the desert, and he has to learn how to be a Fremen, basically. Yeah. And so he like Zendaya kind of makes fun of him for a while, and like, but she ends up teaching him, and they fall in love, and it's believable. And then like Paul is really believable as a guy who just earnestly wants like to avenge his father's death and to be with this girl that he's fallen in love with. Yeah. And I feel like his conflict between like his mother, who was trying to force him into this Messiah role, and his reluctance to do it because of these other reasons, is really well fleshed out. And Timothée Chalamet gives a really, really good acting performance. Oh, yeah. Probably the best I've ever seen him give. Like, I don't know if I've ever thought of him as like a good actor, like, which is not, that sounds kind of rude, but like, man, in this movie, I thought he carried all of the like young reluctance of Paul well, and then towards the end of the movie, as the movie gets a lot darker and more sinister, I thought Timothée Chalamet got darker and more sinister with it in a great way. He,
I think, grew incredibly well with this, of like just growing into like what he was supposed to do, even if it wasn't. It was this weird clash of, he wanted to help, and he did want to be in control, and he wanted to help liberate these people, but he also didn't want to do it in the way that was expected. He didn't want to be the Messiah. He didn't want to lie to these people. And yet everything he did was following what they expected.
That's what was so interesting about it. Like, it's like, is it nature or nurture? Like, is this because like it's the prophecy and it has to be this way? Yeah. Or is it because like, you know, Paul's choosing, like, is this his destiny or is he choosing this? Yeah. And that like distinction was so interesting and really, really well done.
Yeah. And I still like, it doesn't really tell you like how to think about it.
Yeah.
Same with all the politics. There's like, especially in the first movie. The second movie's pretty obvious, like, hey, those guys with no eyebrows that are painted white and randomly killed, like, they're the bad guys. Yeah. Like, there's no question about that. But there is a lot of other politics, specifically in Dune 1, that you're kind of like, I don't know who's right in this. Yeah. And, like, I don't have all the information. And, like, everyone is lying. It feels like everybody is lying in these movies the whole time. But it doesn't feel like everything is based on a lie, because most of it comes true. Like, it's a really good balance between, like, you don't know what you're supposed to believe, but good things are still coming from things that you don't have control over. And it's beautiful.
And all of this, I think, really comes down to maybe how good of a story the Dune book is, but how good of an adaptation it is. Yeah. And again, I haven't read the book, and I understand that the second movie is a departure from the book in a lot of ways. Like, every element with Zendaya's character Chani, and I'd really like to talk about her more too, was not in the book. Like, in the movie, she is the skeptic. Like, she is the one who most disbelieves in the messianic prophecies. Yeah. She's like, we have to free ourselves. We can't like trust an outside Messiah to save us. Like, we have to liberate ourselves. Whereas then Javier Bardem is like, no, like he's the religious fundamentalist and she's the cynic. In the book, apparently she was also pretty religious and then fell in love with Paul. In the movie, what makes it so interesting is that she continues to not believe in the prophecy despite loving Paul. Yeah. And so, like, and again, you really buy their romance and you really buy this tension. And Zendaya also gives a really amazing acting performance. Yeah. Like, she plays so many layers really well.
Another really specific scene that we'll probably get into later, when she does her part of the prophecy. Yeah. That scene was so powerful because he's basically like dead but not dead, and there's this prophecy that the desert flower, which you learn is her other name because everyone has so many names.
Everyone has multiple names.
And she has to like follow the prophecy even though she wants, and she does. And she's still like, it doesn't change kind of what she thinks. Like she still doesn't believe. And it, like her and Paul are both just like trying to get out of this thing that they're stuck in. And it like hurts because you want them to be right, but yet they keep not being right, and like it's alive. Oh,
I know, and it's like, so is it destiny or is it their choice? Like that hangs over everything in the movie in such an interesting way. Yeah. And then to talk about like some specific scenes, there are 3 scenes in this movie. There are a lot of amazing scenes in this movie, but 3 that really stuck out to me that I wanted was when Paul learns to ride the sandworm. Was the first one.
Classic. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. I like the whole time I'm like, I'm just waiting for him to do some test. Yeah. It's always like,
it's a pretty typical part of like a hero's journey. Like Frodo has to, figure out how to do the thing.
And so, but it was still really cool. Like I knew it was coming and I was like, this is kind of cheesy, but it still like got me kind of hyped. Like I'm not going to lie. Like they all got up and cheered and I was like, yes.
I know. Again, I feel like I remember just sitting, like I was on the edge of my seat, like, and I had this big grin on my face because I was like, he's calling the worm. And the girl was like, hey, like, don't embarrass us. Make sure you get a big one or whatever. We don't want a baby worm. And then they called the biggest worm you've ever seen. And Paul has to learn to ride it. And this is, again, where I was just like, like it serves that purpose. You're talking about the story. It serves it really well. And then it's also just awesome filmmaking because the scope is so huge.
And you still get those little intimate moments where you go back to Stilgar and he's like, no, like not that big, because he cares about him like being safe. Like they kind of got this father-son thing going on. They kind of do.
And it cuts back to, and it shows like Zendaya's face and she's really concerned. Yeah. And because they've set up their relationship, you buy that she like she trusts that he can do this, but she's still really nervous because she cares for him a lot. And that's really good, like, facial acting from Zendaya and from Javier Bardem. And I love that they don't sacrifice the intimate moments like that in the middle of this big, like, action scene, basically, where Paul has to, like, learn to ride the worm and get his courage and everything. And then after that is the like, big battle scene where Paul and Zendaya are... I keep going in between actors. But also then the characters all have multiple names, so... But Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, Paul and Chani are... like fighting against this one like spice harvester thing and they're like together.
That was so cool.
And she has the little rocket launcher and he just has a sword and they're trying to fight these guys and they're like hiding underneath like the shadow of the big robot arm. Yeah, that exactly. Yes. And so they have to like run with that thing. And I thought that scene was also like, it was just amazing, like action. Like the way it was directed and shot, like it was really intense and really gripping.
Still some comedy. Yeah. When he's like I'm gonna do it and he like goes and runs for it and then it moves and he's like oh my gosh and he like runs harder.
Absolutely. They never in the middle of these giant action scenes they never sacrifice the smaller character moments. Yeah. And I think that's what makes how the movie ultimately ends so much better and so much sadder. And then the last scene I wanted to talk about was the scene where we're introduced to Austin Butler's Fade Rotha. Yes. And like it's like basically a Gladiator ripoff scene. Yeah. What did you think about that that part? Like,
I loved it. It looks amazing.
It looked so cool. It's like the planet has like interior lighting where you see like your true skin tone or whatever, and then when you step outside on the Harkonnen's evil planet, the sun is black and everything is monochrome and it looks so sick. It was so cool. And the way they introduced Fade Rotha with him like taking his little shield thing off to fight the guy, and like I just thought
classic like fight of like prove yourself, and
Yeah.
he throws the shield away, and then
I think it again, and I think to keep talking about people who I think gave great acting performance in this movie, like Austin Butler was also really great as Federatha, and I don't think I've seen him in anything. I never watched Elvis. I don't know. I know he's like super famous around, but I thought he was maybe the best performance in this movie.
Wow.
I thought he was so good. He was like really menacing. I thought his accent, he sounded exactly like Stellan Skarsgård. Like he just mimicked his voice. I know the bit with Austin Butler's like he sounds like Elvis.
Yeah.
But now he sounds like Stellan Skarsgård. Like the dude just changes his voice in every movie. Like but he killed it, and he was like convincingly evil and really scary, but also really fun. Like a fun scary.
Yeah.
No
I
pun
really
intended.
liked Lady Jessica, her actress.
Rebecca Ferguson.
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
my
from
gosh.
Mission
The
Impossible.
scene where she drinks the worm juice and like freaks out.
And then her like fetus gains sentience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I feel like so many of her lines are like kind of crazy. She's a really spread out character. She is like extremely powerful and has all of these like crazy things that she can do and knows about, and she seems like the most powerful person in the movie at times.
Yeah. She's got
And
like
then-
the freaky witch powers.
Yeah.
Plus, like she knows all about the prophecy and is a part of the prophecy, kind of.
Yeah. But then she also like is pregnant, and therefore like she has these weaknesses that she has to show believably.
Like she gets morning sickness in one
Yes,
scene, right? Yeah.
and she also like is a mother and does genuinely just care about her son, and so she also has that. I mean, it kind of like goes off the deep end, towards the end of it after she becomes like Reverend Mother and things. But especially the first movie, you can see her fighting like, I do want this for my son. Like she made the choice to have a boy and go against whatever they wanted.
That's right.
And she wants it to happen, but she also cares about her son being safe. And and the same with her relationship with Duke Leto is like, she does love him, but she was also told to love him and told to have his child, and the whole like he regretted not marrying her, and it's just like, it's again just this constant like what she was supposed to do versus what she chose to do versus what actually happened, and how they don't always have to be different to still oppose each other in some way.
It's such a cool idea.
It's crazy,
and they explore it so well. And again, I agree. Like her acting performance is really, really good.
So good. She goes like all around the circle the entire movie.
Because like she starts the movie, like you think of her as just like a loving mother, and she's kind of, even though she has like some powers, like when she drinks the water of life, like that's like kind of the beginning of her like spiral into like being really sinister.
Yeah.
And like she becomes very cold and calculating.
Yeah, which they also show really cool because like she's got her daughter who she's pregnant with, and also speaking to the fetus, which is crazy and
some weird stuff in
kind
this
of fun. I kind of loved it.
I liked it. I agree.
Was like the fact that it was such an important character, and I'm sure like she comes back in the next movie or next whatever, and
she'll be around.
Important.
Well, they cast Anya Taylor-Joy to play the sister in like a future vision. Which, like, my friend who watched it was like, who is that? And I was like, well, Paul said it was his sister.
Yeah.
And my dad, who's read all the books, was like, yeah, that's the sister. Like, she's important later. And it's Anya Taylor-Joy for, like, one scene.
Yeah. And, like, what a cool character to not even, like, really get into, because she has all this power. She is, like, she has everything that the Reverend Mother has before she's even born. Like, that is crazy. Yeah. Such a cool way to get power. And
that was super cool. I agree. I thought it was so interesting, like in the first Dune, because I rewatched it before as well, and the Reverend Mother, who's like with the Emperor throughout the movie, like she says something to Jessica, who's like, like our plans are measured in like centuries or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that Jessica had Paul and she wasn't supposed to have Paul, or like Paul was supposed to be a girl or whatever, it's like the Bene Gesserit have all of these plans for like what the universe is supposed to be, and then Jessica makes the choice to change what the plan is, and in doing so like makes the plan come to fruition and all like I mean, you said it really well, like but the fact that you like see all of that in every character in the movie, but especially in Lady Jessica, it's so impressive. Like
I think she is by far the coolest character for me. Like I think she And in the book too, especially as I was reading it, like she is so amazing. She's such like badass woman, gonna do whatever she wants, but also like has a role to fill and is strong. And the line in the second movie where she goes, he's like asking her about being Reverend Mother, like, what is it? What are you gonna do? Are you nervous? Are you scared? And she's like, all I know is it's fatal for men. And I was like, slay, girl. Like, she like hair whipped, turned around, and walked away.
She did.
I just love her. I love her so much.
And then, you know, to get further in the story, it's fatal for men to drink the water of life, but Paul...
And then they do it.
Paul drinks it.
Yeah.
And it's only by the like desert flower tears, whatever, like, because Zendaya's... Because Paul gets like his warrior name throughout the movie, which is the Muad'Dib.
Yes.
Because it's like his which is the name of the cute little kangaroo mouse. Have you seen the movie?
Yes, which I thought was so cute.
I know. I
was like, I should have known
so
that was gonna happen, but I'm really happy it did.
And so
adorable.
when Paul when Paul and Stilgar and Chani are like leading the Fremen and they're like destroying all these spice harvester ships, which is how like Dave Bautista loses his position on the planet, because the Fremen keep like destroying his stuff. Paul starts earning the like nickname or reputation of Muad'Dib, and they don't know it's Paul because they think Paul is dead.
Yeah.
So everyone is calling the Muad'Dib, which I really liked.
Yeah.
And then Zendaya's other name means like desert spring, desert flower, something like that.
Yeah.
And so the part of the prophecy is like, you know, when the Messiah, when the Lisan al-Gaib drinks the water of life, he will die and be revived by like a desert flower or whatever. And so Zendaya, like, because again, like, they live in the desert, so they make a big deal throughout the movie about how, like, you know, you like Javier Bardem's line, like, when Rebecca Ferguson's crying, he's like, never give your water away, not even for the dead, like, because water is too important when you live in the desert. And Zendaya's crying because the boy she loves is dead, and her tears are able to revive him. And then when he's revived, because he drank the water of life, like his mom, he now has all these visions of the future and like sees the past and he sees the future, and it changes him. And throughout the whole movie, he's been like, he's like, if I go, because they have to go to the south, you know, because they've been in the north the whole movie, but when Fade Rotha comes and takes over from Dave Bautista, like they destroy the north basically. Like the north gets destroyed, and so the Fremen have to flee to the south. But Paul's like, if I flee to the south, I'll become the Messiah. And he and Zendaya's like, you don't know that, you know, like you might, but you don't know, like, you know, like, I'll love you as long as you stay who you are, basically. But then they go to the south, and Paul does become the Messiah, and Zendaya's a part of the prophecy.
And bringing back characters from Paul's past.
Yeah, that's right. There's so much that goes on in this movie. At that moment is so
genius, because then he gets a little bit more of that struggle of, like, you know, his father's ring and, like, being Lord, whatever they call him, for
Lord Duke of Dune or whatever.
Something like that. Versus, so it's like everything, and it sounds like so much, and it sounds confusing, but it is not while you're watching it. Like the whole time, it is just, it's easy to follow, and it's so fun. And
we are like recapping / giving notes on like a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
That I think you've heard us say the entire time we think is really, really good.
Yeah.
And so, and I feel like part of the reason it's so good is that it communicates all of these heavy themes, this like really dense plot information in a way that's very easy to understand. Of course, movies are a visual medium. You can kind of just, and again, like they show without telling. They just show you information, you can take it in and keep going with the movie. And the movie does such a great job. Like it stops and like explains stuff to you when you really need it. But a lot of the time they just keep it going. And so it doesn't feel really overwhelming until I guess you sit here and try to explain it.
Yeah.
But essentially the movie ends with Paul sort of accepting the role as the Messiah.
Yeah.
Which
and he like hard accepts. When he's in the South and he's in this like meeting with all of the people and he stands in the front and he starts like the whole your grandmother tells him about the past that like he shouldn't know, and then everyone bows, and the part Zendaya is like standing up. I think that was pretty funny, and the guy's like dragging her down.
The guy from the first Dune who was in like 10 minutes of this movie. His like his old mentor.
Like after that moment, I think there's no going back. Like I think he has realized what he has to do. He knows he is going to have to choose to love marry whatever, someone else for the better of everything. And he kind of like from that moment on, he confronts his past, he confronts his new desert life, and it's this back and forth like a little bit, and then in the end it's just like that moment is like from here on out, like he just has to do what he has to do, and that's exactly what he does. And
it's really tragic.
Yeah.
And Timothée Chalamet communicates it really well in his performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because part of what he has to do is, so the Emperor and Florence Pugh and all the Harkonnens have come to Dune, including like Feyd-Rautha, who's taken over from Dave Bautista, but Dave Bautista's still here. And so they're all on Dune now. And so when they're all on Dune, the Fremen launch a big attack. They kill the evil Baron, Stellan Skarsgård. They kill Dave Bautista. They take the Emperor prisoner and hostage. And Paul, in his new like state as the Messiah, says like, I'm going to deliver the Fremen to freedom. Their planet is not going to be occupied anymore. He's like, I'm going to take you, Emperor, down to avenge my father. So he's like getting revenge for his father. He's helping like free the Fremen from colonization. But he's like, and to do so, I'm going to kill you, Emperor, and become the new Emperor, basically. Yeah. And he says, to do this, I'm going to marry your daughter, Florence Pugh. And he says this in front of Zendaya.
Yeah.
And
right before he delivers that line of like, as long as I'm breathing, like just know, as long as I'm breathing, I will love you. And then immediately turns around and is like and he doesn't ask anything either at this point. He's so powerful by the end of this movie. He's like, I will do this. I will marry your daughter to spare your life, like to the most powerful person. It's so epic. It's so cool.
It's insane. It is, and it is like, but it's so heartbreaking at the same time. Because he's like, hey, like, Chani Zendaya, like, I love you. I gotta do this.
And he's fighting it the whole time. And you keep thinking there's like small victories of like, oh, like he doesn't have to do this. Like, and then he like kind of loses that fight while winning the big fight. And it hurts, but it's good. And
And so the movie all culminates when Paul like challenges the Emperor. The Emperor is like, I'm not going to fight. I'm going to select a champion to fight on my behalf, and he picks Feyd-Rautha.
Yeah.
Of course, and so Paul has to fight Feyd-Rautha at the end of the movie,
which is a great callback to his first fight and how he even became this, and like it was the same kind of just like each of them have a knife. He does the whole like flick to the forehead thing with the knife that Zendaya's character gave him, and it's like. I need to rewatch both of them back to back, but I think there was a lot of like callbacks to that specific fight in the choreography and the angles and how he was fighting and like how he's grown from it, even though he was great. It just like it wrapped it up so good. That fight scene was impeccable. It was so good.
I think you're right. It was amazing the way it called back. Yeah. And then it ends with Paul ultimately winning. He kills Feyd-Rautha, and like again, Austin Butler's like freaking lights out in this scene. He's so good.
He's so good.
Dude is a great actor. I had no idea. I kind of want to watch Elvis now. Like,
you should.
I don't know. But like he kills Feyd-Rautha. So in doing so, he is able to take over as the Emperor. He's defeated the Emperor's champion. He's gonna marry Florence Pugh. Yep. Zendaya leaves.
Big sad,
understandably. So she dips out. And then Lady Jessica also like stays on Dune, but Paul
she takes over as like it was kind of glided over. She is now like the main.
Yeah, she's like
Bene Gesserit. Like she is the.
She took over the one from the first movie. Yeah. So like she's risen up into power. Paul's risen up into power because Paul is like, but Paul now wants to take over as the Emperor. The other like nations in the galaxy are like, we don't accept you as the Emperor, Paul. Like you're just some kid. Like we all thought you were dead. So Paul takes Florence Pugh, and he takes all the Fremen, including like Stilgar, and he's like, hey, we're about to go fight a holy war. Yeah. To declare freedom and to make Paul the Emperor of the universe. Yeah. And so the like
big dreams.
And so it's like the selfless, like humble guy who just wanted to be part of the desert, wanted to be one of the Fremen, is like gone. Like now he wants to be the Emperor. It's all about like he avenged his dad. He did all the things he set out to do. Yeah. But now he like has tasted the water of life and he sees what the future is and he wants the power. And so he goes out. So Zendaya leaves the Fremen at the end of the movie. Like Lady Jessica becomes the new Reverend Mother, and Paul and the Fremen all fly out into the universe to fight a holy war, and that's how the movie ends. Yeah. And so it ends like kind of on a downer because it's like this guy, like, we basically watched Paul break bad in a way, and like Lady Jessica too. Like they basically like become they're the protagonists, but they become the villains in a way. Like,
they've won in a way that they didn't want to.
Yeah, and it's like the whole time they never wanted it to be this way, but all the choices they made along the way resulted in this happening anyway.
Yeah,
it's so fascinating. It's so good. So yeah.
Kind of end on a little bit of a downer, but also in a good way. And
I felt like I left this movie on such a high of like, I can't believe what I just watched.
Yeah, I've seen so many people relating it to like watching The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers for the first time.
Yeah.
And just like that feeling afterwards of like so much just happened, so much battle, so much change, so much everything. And it was heavy. It was a heavy watch, but in the best way possible.
I agree, in the best way possible. Yeah. Because you have, and we've said it all along as we've been recapping and giving notes and stuff, like every aspect of this movie is so well done. Like all of the themes, all the characters, all the visuals are like the top of their game. Like everything works so well. And so when you leave, even though it is like almost like a tragedy. Like it ends with our hero. It's not like he was fallen at the beginning and then he rises to power in the wrong way. And so like because it was such a good character arc, it's like you leave and just like, I can't believe what I just witnessed. Yeah. And then like, but it was so well told. It's like even though it is like a downer of an ending, it's so well done that like just you're like amazed at what you've seen.
Exactly.
And I like honestly can't wait to see it again.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to see it again.
We didn't even touch on like the war scenes, like the actual like huge battles happening of them like going across the desert and all the giant machines being dropped. Like all of those like little moments are just so cool. So much like literally like moving in my seat every time there's like giant bombs or machines or worms or sand or everything like moving around.
Do you have like a one like battle scene or fight scene that like really stuck out to you in the movie?
The intro, like the very first scene, I think it's the very first scene, blew my socks off. I was like
it was really cool.
Locked in when Paul wakes up from whatever visions or whatever, and everyone's like sign languaging like bad guys, we gotta go, and then they like peek over the edge, and it's the first time you see like the full like Harkonnen army, like in daylight, and like you can actually see what they look like, and their outfits are so cool. That's a whole other side. The clothing was incredible. All the outfits were incredible, and they come in their like war and their guns, and they're like stomping over the sand, and all the Fremen are like running away, going to like telling them to stay, and they basically come up over, and they're all hidden, and then they start floating out of nowhere, which was so fun.
It looked really sick.
I was almost laughing. It was like, what did they say? They said climb, and they jumped and like little like here's the mountain, here's the little bites, like whew, and they just started like floating, walking up the mountain, and I was
You're
like,
so right, yes,
this is crazy. And then they get on top, and then it's just like the most epic like
takedown
I've ever seen. Them just getting shot. He gets shot and he stands there for a minute, and it literally feels like every single one of them fell for like 10 days and then hit the concrete harder than anyone I've ever seen, because you watch them fall, and they use sound so incredible in this scene because it's silent when they're falling, and then they hit the ground, and it hurts. It hurts. Yeah. and like the angles that they take from it, where you see them on top, you see them getting shot, and then you see them hitting the ground, on the ground, like in the dirt with the other people. And then there's just like these random ones of them on the side of the mountain that's just like, it's just the silent body falling. And it is so dramatic. And it really, I was like, they set it up sick. So good. It was so amazing. Oh, yeah. Anything else that we have not hit on that is like, oh, I can't believe we forgot about that with this movie?
I think I have two questions.
Okay.
Number one is who won the movie? Oh. Like, is it Denis Villeneuve? Is it one of the actors? Like, who do you think wins the movie? Like, who do you walk away with like number one best impression?
Maybe just I think the actual writing, the screenplay, I think for how much they let out and didn't go over 3 hours.
Yeah, true.
I'm so happy about.
It was a great length.
Yeah,
Perfect length.
I mean, they hit everything perfectly, and the characters, and it's just, I think overall, the way the story was laid out was the hardest thing to do and the most successful thing that they did.
Yeah. I was probably going to say the directing of the movie. The way everything was staged.
Incredible.
The acting was so incredible. Like, I think we list like almost every main actor we talked about at some point and how good they were.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zendaya and Austin Butler I was really, really impressed with. Chalamet was great. Rebecca Ferguson was great.
And even like directing in the way of like CG and effects, because this is a huge space epic. Yes. And it doesn't feel like it. And that's what's incredible.
It
Nothing
feels
about
so
it.
personal.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, then the epic scenes feel epic, but they are always epic because they're in relation to the personal characters.
Yeah.
Like, you always understand, like, okay, so here's where Zendaya is in this scene. And then you see all the other stuff going on around them, and here's where Timothée Chalamet is. And it's like, all right, so this is epic, and it's intense, and it's exciting, and I'm also really invested because I have a great understanding of where everybody is and why I should care about them and where they are.
Yeah.
Like, that's just some of the best things directors can do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, when you can capture that scale and make it so exciting, and it's exciting because I'm invested in the people, too.
Yeah.
And you directed great performances.
In 2 movies, I mean, I feel like I watched, like, the Harry Potter series. Like, I feel like I have been with this story for 8 full blown out movies, and like they're long movies, but there's only 2 of them.
You've basically got 5 hours with them.
Yeah, like not that much. It's a fairly short amount of time that passes. At least it feels like. Yeah. Maybe I have that wrong, but it feels like, you know, like we're not sitting here for years with these people.
I mean, it's probably about 9 months, right? Yeah, because she doesn't give birth in the movie, but she's very pregnant at the end. So I imagine the movie takes place in about. Because at the end of the first movie, she's like just gotten pregnant. Yeah. So the movie is probably like 8 or 9 months long timeline. And you feel like so much happens and it's so good. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And my last kind of question would be, do you want to see more Dune?
Oh man, absolutely. I'm definitely going to finish reading the books. I think I am hyped enough to get through them. Yeah. And I really liked the book. Like, it is definitely hard to get through. It is slow. And I think the movies are the same, especially like watching it in a theater, no problem. But watching the first one again on a laptop, it was definitely like, okay, this is really like we need to move a little bit faster here, but still incredible. So I think if the story continues in any way like it has been told, I would 100% want more of it, want a prequel. I mean, it definitely feels like Lord of the Rings. It feels like Avatar. It feels big and like it could get bigger and only be better. So absolutely, I'd be down for more.
I agree. If you've got Denis Villeneuve and Timothée Chalamet, you got the same people doing it, I'd watch another one. Yeah. It seems like they want to do one more, like, and make it like a trilogy. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, I don't know, but I'm invested. I'm sold.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
All right.
What would you give the movie out of 5?
Ooh, let me check what I actually gave it. What would you give the movie out of 5?
I'm really, really stuck between 4.5 and 5. Ooh. Because I feel like they had to do so much. And the fact that they executed what they did at the level they did, I feel like it's hard to say they could have done any better. Like, I don't know where the room for improvement would be. Overall, like, I don't know if it left as strong an impression on me as like a 5-star movie. But when you just look at what they did and how much I enjoyed it, I'm gonna stick 4.5 right now, but I could really see, like, I'm so close to giving it a 5. If I watch it again and feel anywhere this like good about it, it'll probably go up.
Yeah. I gave it 4 stars, which I feel pretty good about. I think I ended up doing one at a 3.5, and then I gave this one a 4.
I also gave Dune 1 4.5, and I kind of feel good. I feel like they're pretty equally good films because they do very different things. Yeah, and they do them both well.
Yeah, but I think the only thing it's really missing for me is, and this is just like because it's what I like. It did feel a little like by the end wasn't really like super cheering for anybody, and like the love story didn't work out, and like so little things that I'm like I probably would have like 5 stars if the love story was a really big thing, just because that's
Yeah.
what I like. But as like a war political epic, it was incredible. Just not like my 5-star vibe.
I feel you.
I do think this one will stay at 4, could easily move to 4.5. The first one I think belongs at the 3.5 area. It's a little slower. This one's much faster than the first one. So I will say, if you watched the first one and you didn't really vibe with it and you thought it was too slow, I do think watching the second one is still worth it.
I agree.
You don't even really need to watch the first one to understand what's happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it is
There are a
genuinely
couple, like-
just set up. Like
There are a couple little world building things that they don't really tell you like who the Bene Gesserit are.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
again,
you find out pretty easily.
You
like,
find out.
These
Like,
ladies are in charge. Okay,
you-
they are large and in charge.
large and in charge. If you watch the movie, you will understand what's happening in the movie.
Yeah,
I think you're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Dune Part 2.
What a good start, but a little bit late to 2024.
The first good movie of the year that I've seen.
Yeah.
Not been a lot of good stuff so far. Very, very thrilled about Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let us know what you think of Dune 2. If you want to hear even more of what we think, we are on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube now. We've got videos now. We will probably do some polls and things to see how everyone felt about Dune 2. Seems pretty easy across the board. I would love to hear if you hated Dune 2. Why? Give me more of a reason to keep it at 4 stars.
Maybe we should keep it 4.5.
Yeah. Cool.
Sweet.
Thanks
Thank you so much for listening.
This was a blast. Go watch Dune. Bye.
Bye.